Hey, thank you all so much for joining another episode of Celeste The Therapist Podcast. My name is Celeste. I'm a therapist from Boston. If you've never been here before, thank you so much for giving me a try. What I do on this podcast is I talk about things that we all go through and I help come up with things and ways that you can work on it. So if you are new here, try to use this podcast as a way that you can learn new things. And in order to do that, you got to write it down and make it plain. So grab a notebook, grab a pen, press pause, things that stick out for you, write them down. And guess what? Don't let it be the last time you go to that notebook. Go back to the notebook and revisit that content. Because what's going to happen is the more you engage with this content, the more your mind starts to look for evidence to make it real, right? In today's episode, we're talking about challenging limiting beliefs. And I know for a fact so many people have them because of what I do for a living. I talk to people every day. And I can see the greatness in people, and people struggle with seeing that within themselves because that's their self dialogue. That's how they have been operating. And so, no matter it doesn't matter that I see them. I'm working on helping them see themselves and changing that inner dialogue voice. Before we get started, I just have a couple of announcements. So, May 3rd, I am having Mental Health Awareness Month here at my wellness center. So, I'm so excited about that. This is going to be a time where we can come together and we will be able to work on um, we'll be able to work on different things that the wellness center is providing. So that is really exciting because I want people to learn how to heal. And I feel like a lot of times people only know psychiatry or therapy. So I want people to know like there's so many other ways that they can work on healing. So May 3rd, if you are in the Stoughton area, come through. It's a free event. And all you got to do is go to either Eventbrite or go to my website, stwyt.com, to sign up. That is happening May 3rd. And these are some monthly events that I have at the center. So once a month, we have a mindful yin class. And then we also have a rest and restore class. And then the last Friday of every month, we have restorative yoga class. So these are somatic practices. One of the things that people don't recognize is that they store pain in their body, right? So people talk about, oh, let's talk about it, let's talk to people. But a lot of people aren't talking about how do I get rid of how stuck I feel, right? Like I get that this is the case and I get I went through this, I'm making those connections, but in my body, I'm still feeling stuck. A lot of these somatic practices can help you start the process of getting unstuck. So those are things that are happening. If you go to my website, stwyt.com, you can find the link to everything that's going on. So make sure if you are in the Stoughton area, you check it out. If you have any questions, all you got to do is email us info@stwyt.com. That's info@stwyt.com. All right, let's jump into the topic. Let's talk about limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs will keep you limited, literally. And a lot of times people don't even recognize what their voice is saying because why? We're constantly doing so many things. We're constantly distracted. We're on the go all the time. And then if we feel a little bit of uncomfortability, we find a way to mitigate that. That could be anywhere from drinking and smoking to getting more degrees or picking up overtime, right? Anything to keep us distracted, we will find ourselves doing it so that we won't have to feel the pain. So let's jump into the first slide. Again, if you're listening to me on the audio, you can find these episodes streaming on YouTube. I am a very visual person, so being able to like watch things and read them is very helpful to me. I know some people are audio people and they're good like that. I know I need the visual. So I'm going to talk about some common limiting beliefs that people have. And one of the ones that I hear a lot is I'm not good enough. And so if you are somebody that feels you're not good enough, you're probably avoiding taking on new challenges and opportunities because you feel you're going to fail and not meet expectations. You're probably leading things to perfectionism where you feel that only flawless performance is acceptable, which causes you stress and burnout. And when you feel like you got to lead with perfectionism. A lot of times you stop, you don't, you procrastinate on the project because it has to be a certain way. And then the last thing is that it may also result in negative self talk where you constantly criticize yourself or downplay your achievements, right? So if you find yourself saying you're not good enough, right? These are some of the ways that you're going to find yourself struggling around life. Where if your mind is telling you you're not good enough, then when the opportunities comes, you're not going to go for it. You're not going to say nothing. You're going to find yourself feeling stuck, right? With negative self-talk. Another limiting belief that I hear people say is I don't deserve success, right? A lot of times, I see this a lot in the Black community. We feel we don't deserve success. We don't say it, but our actions show it. We won't go for that promotion. We will like minimize ourselves and our achievements. A lot of times, it's because we haven't seen it, right? So if you're somebody that you find yourself not feeling deserving of success, or maybe you don't realize this is what you're thinking, you may sabotage your own efforts, such as procrastinating on important tasks or not fully committing to projects, believing you don't deserve it. This belief can lead to feelings of guilt when experiencing success, causing you to downplay your accomplishments or attribute them to luck rather than your own efforts. I see this a lot in the Black community. You know, we live in a society, if you're in America, you live in a society that wasn't never designed for you. And unfortunately, there's systems at play that will make you feel like you don't deserve it by the comments that they make, by the lack of acknowledgement about what you've done at that job, how you've allowed that job to excel, right? I've been in that position, so I know what that feels like. I've sat with people who have allowed companies to grow and have not gotten the acknowledgement that they deserved. And so you may not realize consciously that you're finding yourself feeling like you don't deserve success. But if these things make sense where you find yourself doing these things, that's probably what's happening in your mindset without you realizing it's happening. I'll never be able to change. I hear this a lot from people, you know, and I like to tell people we are we are people that are able to change our algorithm. We can change the way we're operating. Just because things were one way for a certain amount of time doesn't mean it has to stay that way, right? A lot of people don't realize that you could come from a long line of people that have struggled, and you may be the person that's breaking that generational struggle. And being the first person to break that generational struggle is so hard. Nobody talks about how hard that is to do because you're doing it in a way where if you're living in a system and it's dysfunctional and you're trying to work on being functional, they'll make you feel like you're dysfunctional. What are you doing? Why are you going to school? Why are you doing what those white people are doing? Like making comments like those things. And it's not because they're trying to put you down, it's just they don't really get it. Right. And so sometimes you have to understand that when you are the first person to do something in your family system, it'll be hard for people to accept as well, like seeing you grow. And so you also have a hard time seeing yourself grow as well without even realizing that that is happening. So if you're finding yourself feeling like you're never able to change, you may resist trying new strategies or approaches, believing that your habits or personality traits are fixed and unchangeable. This is just how I am. Is it how you are? One of the things that people say to me is that they procrastinate, right? This is just how I am. I'm just a procrastinator. Are you a procrastinator? Were you born a procrastinator? Right? You unfortunately we start to adapt to our dysfunction and make it part of who we are. When that's not who we are, that's who we adapted to, not realizing that that's what's happening. So this belief can lead to a sense of hopelessness where you feel stuck in your current situation and do not seek help or resources for improvement, and you just stay where you are, right? It's a choice to want to change, but change requires action. Change requires you to be uncomfortable. There's no way to be comfortable if you're trying to change. There's no other way to put it. You know what I mean? Like if your system has been living a certain way for so long, right? If your system has been living away for so long and you call yourself trying to change the system, of course your system is going to be like, whoa, 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 Celeste, like, what is we doing? Like, what are we doing? We don't go for this walk in the morning. We don't get up in the morning to try to start our day with us. Like, are you kidding me? There will be a lot of resistance. There's a quote talks about the real battle happens in your mind because it's true. The real battle is happening in your mind because your system is like not knowing what's going on. And so if you can work on being uncomfortable in that in that transitional state that you're in, because you're going to go through a transition where there's this like, do I want to do it? Do I not? One foot in, one foot out. You're fighting your system. Keep fighting, because what's going to happen is your mind and body will have no other choice but to fall in line with the direction that you're taking it. I'll say that one more time. When you start working on creating change and doing the things that you know you're capable of deep down inside, that anxiety that you're feeling, that struggle that you're feeling, is because you are not living to your fullest potential. When you start living to your fullest potential, it's going to feel very uncomfortable. But I promise you, your mind and your system and everything within you has no other choice but to fall in line with the direction that you're taking it. Right now, the direction you're taking it is just letting it flow anyway. Imagine, you never been somewhere before. You need directions. Back in the day, there was a map quest. I used to print out. Gosh, I'm old. I can't imagine having to do this now, but I used to print out freaking the paper directions. I used to print out the directions and to get where I needed to go. I didn't just hope and pray I got there. You know what I'm saying? I had to print out the directions. Now, obviously, we could pop the directions in our phone. It tells us where to go. When you're operating in life, I feel like most people are just hoping they get to where they need to be. Like, yeah, I want to be successful. Where's it written at? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, what are you doing to be successful? Are you setting an alarm to write in your journal in the morning or when you get off work, right? Because everybody can't do a morning thing. Some people work overnights, right? So, I never want you to give yourself an excuse. I know people be like, get up at 6 in the morning, wake up, blah, 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 blah. That's not what I'm telling you, because I know my audience is different. Everybody's hours are different. Everybody's lifestyle is different. All I'm asking you to do, at what point are you making time to write down what you want to do? If you're not writing down what you want to do, if you're not creating a plan and where you want to go, then you're literally, like the example I'm using, hoping you get there, get to your destination. And it's going to take a long time if you do it that way. So, working on being intentional. If you find yourself saying you can't change and this is just how you are, but then you're not, if you're happy with how you are, I love that for you. But if you're telling me you can't change it and you don't like where you are, I need you to work on looking at things in a different way, right? Shifting the way you think. That's exactly why I call my practice shifting the way you think, because I recognize if we can just shift a little bit, just a little bit, then we'll start heading into the direction we need to head. Sometimes when it comes to limiting beliefs, you must please everyone. How many people can attest that that's them, right? So you may find yourself overcommitting to tasks or responsibilities, often at the expense of your own needs and well-being, leading to burnout. Baby, I got to take a whole pause right there, right? So many times, this I got to please everybody. You're doing that because it feels like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. You've made your identity off of pleasing. Some of this stuff could have stemmed from childhood experiences where it's not like somebody said to you, hey, Celeste, you're supposed to please everybody. But based off of the way things were going, trying to make sure mom was okay, make sure dad was okay, or whoever was in your house, the responsibilities that were put on you where you felt like a burden, you found yourself feeling like you had to please everybody. And guess what happens? You become a whole adult feeling the same exact way until you realize that, right, that you deserve the best and that you have to start saying no and putting up boundaries, you're going to find yourself always in that state of mind. It's hard for you to work on the goals and do the things you need to do if you're constantly drained and burned out from trying to please everybody. This belief can result in difficulty saying no because you feel too overwhelmed and stressed as you try to meet everyone's expectations, right? So, if this is speaking to you, I really want you to think about this. Pause this video, write it down. This is part of my limiting beliefs. Me thinking that I have to please everybody. Says who? Says where? Right? Regardless of what religion you are a part of, I don't think there's a religion that says, don't worry about you, just worry about everybody else. Burn yourself out. Right? Nowhere it says that. And the crazy thing is that if you find yourself trying to change that trajectory and saying no, or putting up boundaries, what's going to happen is your system will try to reject it. Because it's going to be like, Celeste, like, what do? You're supposed to say, yeah, I know you're not driving in that direction. I know you're tired. I know you got a meal prep for the next day. But saying no is going to feel like I'm doing something wrong. So if I say yes, I'm going to take you in a direction I'm not going. It's going to take me an hour out of the way I'm going. I'm going to drive home feeling tired, feeling so beat down. I don't meal prep for the next day. My day's starting off really hard because now I'm so tired because I got to bed late, right? It's not bad to think about yourself, right? It's not bad because guess what? When me starting with myself first allows me to be a better partner, allows me to be a better mom, allows me to be a better therapist, it allows me to be a better boss, right? I'm able to navigate all of these things that I operate day to day because I'm starting my day with me. Did I grow up thinking that way? No. Was I taught that way? No, but I had to relearn it and best believe that I was able to relearn how to do that. Best decision I've made was choosing me. Was it hard as I was making that transition? Absolutely. It was very hard. It was very hard to make that transition. It felt like I was doing something wrong. And I want to tell you that's part of the process of change. We stop the process of change because nobody's telling us, like, oh, well, hold on, wait a minute now. Like, nobody told me, was it going to feel good? People just say, oh, just say no. Oh, just put up boundaries. They forget to tell you about the part of how hard it feels like you're doing something wrong. So you can feel like you're doing something wrong, but logically, you know you're not doing anything wrong, right? And feeling like something's wrong and something being wrong are two different things. Try not to make your decisions based off of your feeling because you'll never do what needs to be done, right? Because if you're trying to change, yes, you're going to feel like you're doing something wrong. It's just part of the process. So let's identify limiting beliefs. Like, how do we do that, right? Because I just went over some calming limiting beliefs that we have. And I want to help you identifying, like, is this me? Is this something that I struggle with? In order to do that, it's important to think about self reflection. So try journaling or meditation to uncover thought patterns. Doesn't have to be complicated. I have a guided journal called 365 Days of Intentional Living that I always forget to promote, but I do have one. Um, and it's on my website. And every day I ask a different question, ask you how you're feeling, right? I created that because when I would go online and talk to people and talk to them about ways to work on understanding themselves better, I would talk about journaling. People say, I don't know how to journal. So I have a journal. There's thousands and thousands of journals you can buy on Amazon. You don't have to buy a journal to start this process. You can literally grab a notebook and a pen. You can literally go to the notes section of your phone and you can ask yourself certain questions every day. You can just write in free flow. How am I feeling? What went well? Let me tell you the four questions I ask my kids at night, right? These are four questions we talk about in a group every single night. How am I feeling? What am I grateful for? What went well today? And what do I need to do to prepare for tomorrow? Right? You can just start with those four questions. When the feeling piece, grab a feelings chart and actually point to the feeling to identify the actual feeling that you're feeling. Right? The reason why, if you want to work on identifying some of these limiting beliefs, you got to start with taking a pause and reflecting on what's going on. And meditation, start with 2 minutes of just pausing. If your next statement to me is Celeste, but when I pause, I have all these thoughts, I'm going to say, well, hey, guess what? The thoughts are there whether you're going to pause or not. So why not pause and pay attention to what's going on? Imagine just allowing people to throw trash on you every freaking day. And so, like, throw trash in your room every day, and you're not pausing. You're just walking around the trash. You don't realize, like, the room starts smelling. You don't even realize it's smelling because you're getting used to the smell. You're getting used to people throwing trash all over you in your room, in your space. You would never allow that to happen. Somebody just come walking through your door, open up your freaking door, and just throw trash in there. Literally, when it comes to your mind and the thoughts that you have, we're surrounded by trash with people that doubt us, stuff on social media, the freaking news. With so many hard things are happening. our experiences from the past. So let me just make it clear on what's happening. If you're going to choose not to take a pause, meditate, journal, check in with yourself about how you're feeling, if you're going to choose not to do that, let me be clear on what's happening. You're saying, hey, everybody, it's okay to throw trash on me. Hey, I'm here. Yep, open my door, throw trash in here. That's what you're saying. So we can't help the trash that we're exposed to, especially if we're in freaking America. We can't help the trash, but what we can do is work on disposing it, right? When I was going to start a podcast, oh, you really think you could start a podcast? Everybody has a podcast. That was in 2018. What we in? We in 2025. And if I let somebody say, and don't get me wrong, when the person said that, my stomach turned a little bit. I was like, dang, can I do this? Absolutely, you can, right? When I was opening my private practice in 2016, you really think you can open? That's overhead. That's money. That's I can do that. I can do that. The person that was talking wasn't an entrepreneur. The person that was talking wasn't going in the same direction I was going, right? So you got to understand some of the people that you're talking to about your goals and your vision, they're not going in the same direction that they're going. They have limiting beliefs of themselves, right? So why not like make your goals and the things that you want to do clear for yourself? So be mindful on how you're framing things because I promise you, you're listening. And so when you're working on trying to identify the ways in which you're holding yourself back, self reflection is a great thing to do. Another way you can do to work on understanding yourself is just asking yourself questions. What do I believe about myself? What is holding me back? Challenge yourself. I've gotten as far as I've gotten because I ask myself questions. I pay it when I'm feeling a certain thing, when my stomach's turning. Like just because I have this information and I'm talking about it and teaching it on the podcast and in life when I'm speaking, just because I have this knowledge doesn't mean I don't struggle with the same struggles that you have. The struggles are there. I'm asking myself the questions. I'm just not allowing the fear to stop me. I'm not letting these limiting beliefs to stop me from going back. So, asking yourself questions will help you understand yourself better. Feedback from others. Others, I know I just said, don't be telling everybody, da 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 da. But some people have some good people in their lives, mentors, maybe obviously therapists, right? If you have a good therapist, you may have a good friend, right? I have a couple of really close friends that will tell me how it is, right? So there's value in seeking feedback from trusted friends and mentors. It can't just be anybody, people that you trust that will like that know you well, that want the best for you, that want to see you win, right? Everybody that's around us isn't bad, right? But then I know some people may not have a lot of great people in their life. So if that's the case, X that out, right? You can find that community online, right? You can look for a community online if you don't have somebody in person. And if you can't find it online, if you say, like, start with the book, start with the podcast. If you listen to this podcast, this is a great tool to help you work on challenging the limiting beliefs that you have about yourself. Now, let's talk about the challenging, right? How can I challenge my limiting beliefs? This is the last part where we just talked about some of the limiting beliefs that we have, right? When then next thing we talked about is how do I identify those limiting beliefs? And now I just want to go into how do I challenge the limiting beliefs that I have? So there's this thing called cognitive restructuring. I do this very well in my session. So basically, replacing negative thoughts with positive affirmations, right? um my client, it's so funny because my clients will be like, yeah, when they first start working with me, they'll be like, yeah, I don't know if I can do that. And I'm like, oh yeah, you can't. I said, what makes you think you can't? Like I literally check them on the spot. And so I said, when they first start working with me, because if long term, they may start it, they be like, I already know what you're gonna say, Celeste, because I feel like I'm the negative belief slayer. Call me the negative belief slayer because I'm slaying it like pow. um so cognitive restructuring, so basically, um dang, can I really do this, right? So basically, if you're not processing what's going on, your mind is like, dang, can I really do this? If I don't stop and tell my mind, yes, I can do this, my mind's just going to keep turning. Can I really do this? Can I really do this? So that thing I want to start, the vision I have, it's never going to start because I'm not challenging it. Absolutely, I can do this. Like, that's the, like, you got to be real, like, gully with yourself. Like, yeah, I could do this. Like, give them negative thoughts a name. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's just give it Karen. You know what I'm saying? Karen comes in your head. Like, can you really do this? Yes, I can do this, Karen. You know what I'm saying? Like, just do it. You got to start like speaking over that thought. It's a thought. It doesn't have power, but then you give it power when you don't allow yourself to challenge it. That's how it gets the power. All right, the next way we're going to challenge limiting beliefs is evidence gathering. So we're going to collect evidence that contradicts my limiting beliefs. So let's just stick with, can I really do this? Yes, I can. Now I start to look for ways in which I've been able to accomplish things, right? Oh, yeah, I was able to finish school, right? Oh, yeah, I did this play or I learned this. Oh, I'm really good at learning new things. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, work on collecting evidence and reminding yourself that you have what you need. And worst case scenario, if what is it that you're trying to do doesn't work out, I can go back to the drawing board. The thing that I started with, the vision I originally had, it didn't go that way. Then but I would have never known. So originally, I wanted to work with parents who had kids with autism because I had just adopted my 5-year-old cousin. He's 20, almost 21 now. I just adopted him and I struggled. I was so young and I didn't have any friends with kids or people I knew who had children with autism. So I was like, oh, I want to work with autism, parents of kids with autism. And, as I began to work with him, he got better. I didn't have the same behavioral issues. And then I started to feel like, oh, I want to do something. So I started this Uniting Autism, right? I started this thing and then after that I said, I want to work with other people. So then I started the thing called the Uniting Center, right? It was like, oh, I want people to come together and unite, right? And then from the unite in a way of like different ways of healing. I didn't know what that was going to look like. Then from there I started the podcast, had the books, and one of the things I always talked about is like it's important to shift the way you think. And then I got an LLC in 2022 called Shifting the Way You Think. And I knew, and on my paperwork it says teaching classes and doing X, Y, and Z. I honestly had no idea 2 years later in 2024 I was going to open up my wellness center. No idea. But what happened is I kept putting one foot in front of the other. And so if I didn't um, start the process, right? So it's like if I say, can you really do this? Yes, I can. I've been able to do X, Y, and D, C. And I start the process. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work out. And if that doesn't work out, let me go back to the drawing board. The problem is when something doesn't go work out, if we hit a speed bump, we feel like life is over. Life isn't over. If you're still breathing, there's freaking room for change. That life isn't over. Like you can keep going. And so you got to gather evidence that you got this. And the last thing I want to say about challenging your limiting beliefs is visualization techniques. So the power of visualizing success and the steps needed to achieve it. There's so much power in visualizing where you're headed. In order for that vision to come in, you got to write it down. If your vision isn't written anywhere and not just in the corner where there's dust and you haven't even opened it up again, I'm talking about written where you're seeing it every day. It's on your mirror, it's on your phone, right? If you're it's in your calendar every Wednesday morning, I'm going to blah blah blah, whatever it is. If you don't have no system in place for your vision, then tell me, do you really want to change? Do you really want to go to different levels? This isn't just professionally. I'm talking about literally too. I literally wanted to drink more water. I had a sticky note on my computer. So when I opened this up, that I was on this computer every day, every time I opened it up, it says, don't forget to drink water. I wanted to curb the way I was eating. I can eat emotionally when I'm struggling. Give me a cheeseburger, give me a chocolate cake. If you've been in this podcast before, you girl be like, give me the cheeseburger, give me the chocolate cake. And I said, Celeste, are you really hungry? Well, do you want broccoli? That was my screensaver for 6 months. Now it's worked so well. I be like checking myself, like, ooh, do you really want that? Because I've seen that for so long. There's water all the time by me. Look at if you're watching me on YouTube. Your girl got water. I don't play when it comes to water. Why? Because I started a system. So when I talk about writing it down and make it play, I'm talking about the simplest goals. When you start accomplishing the simplest goals, like making up your bed in the morning, getting up on time, preparing your clothes the night before so you're not rushing in the morning. When you start working on the simplest goals, you start telling your mind that you are so capable of change. And the more that you can get your mind in check and on board for the change that you're trying to create, man, the levels you're going to go, baby, crazy. Anyways, I hope that was helpful, y'all. I hope it makes sense. Remember, we just discussed the limiting beliefs, identifying it, changing the limiting beliefs. If this episode spoke to you, do me a favor, send it to somebody that you love, right? You never know how much a podcast, the things that people hear, how it can change them. So go ahead and send it to somebody like, hey, I heard this podcast. You know, my girl Celeste should be on it. You know what I'm saying? Send it to somebody that you love. Definitely hit me up. I'm on all social media platforms. So Celeste the Therapist is my personal social media that I'm on. I try to share. I haven't been sharing as much in my stories lately because I've been so busy. And then STWYT is my business Instagram and Facebook. You can find me there. And if you're not already following me on YouTube, you can find me on YouTube. I like the podcasts I listen to. I'm quick. Like, give me the visual. Let me find you. Yo, when podcasts are on YouTube, I love watching it on YouTube. It's like my little show that I watch at night. I like my not reality shows. I haven't watched reality shows in a long time, but the bloggers that talk about different things that are happening. I'm big to watch those at night, and then in the mornings I like to watch my little motivational videos. Not mine's, but other people's. I like to watch motivational videos. So, if anything I ever say resonates for you, I always tell people understand you have the power to make the change, but guess what? You got to start to have faith to believe in yourself. If you have faith and if you start believing in yourself, no one can ever take that away from you. I don't ever want you to forget that. When you start having faith, when you start believing in yourself, I promise you, no one can ever take that away from you. So until next time, beautiful people, I will talk to you later.